So, we're excited about the heart and the
liver.
The liver.
Yes.
It's weird even that you're calling it liver. The thing is, the heart and the liver, you know, so I don't know how the weekend is nowadays. If these things still bring excitement.
Yes.
I mean, but
well,
the weekend was really
Felix, these days people go for KFC. Yeah, but also I'll tell you that I was never selective about any kind of part. Whatever you are given, whether that single, you eat.
Have you ever eaten this one? you know, this is called what? What's this one that does that?
The wing. Anyway, Felix, you'll take us through your chronicles because it seems like it's a whole book. But good morning, Robert. How are you doing this Monday morning?
I'm very fine. I thank the Lord for the gift of life and you people, and of course the entire team of Good Morning Uganda. And our viewers that have woken up with us. Thanks so much for waking up with us. Well, the weekend really had so much.
Yes.
Like the people of Mubende at Kasanda who are now testing the Ebola guidelines, which are not so much different from the COVID guidelines. Now that you can't go into or come out, if you're given authorization to go through Mubende, maybe you're heading to other districts, not dropping someone off within these districts or picking anybody. And of course, yesterday I was watching clips of curfew at 7,
yes,
where some had seemingly forgotten that by 7, if you're in Mubende or Kasanda, work is done up to 6 a.m. So we sympathize and we pray that we do not get Kampala to that. It's upon us to be very, very careful. If we get a confirmed case where the source is Kampala,
yes,
then I think we may go back to essential workers, where Felix was enjoying himself, being free on the road, you know, no jam, but also a bit scary. So we just pray and hope that we don't get to that part again. But also to the candidates, yes, those that went to church, almost every place of worship, yes, they were praying for candidates. They were praying for candidates that are going to begin the exams, though if we count briefing, which was Friday,
yes,
they have started. And today is their first day. We pray for them. We wish them all the best. And I hope and pray they all pass with flying colors. But also depends on, you know, this is a time for reaping.
Yes, what you saw, I was just about to say that
if you are
as much as we may pray for them.
The celebrities of the school, because you're stubborn. You dodge classes, you're always down there, parade. Now escapee, this is the time. But of course, there are also escapees that are bright, very stubborn, but they have first grades. And there are those that follow them, and now this is the time to reap. But our prayer is that you pass successfully. Over and above, I want to say it was a lovely weekend. I saw party animals everywhere. You would see people enjoying life. And also the faithful were also there. Yes, it was a mixture.
I guess everybody is always has something cut out for them. At least what I know about the Ugandan population, we have really learnt the art of programming our weekends. We know what to do, when to do it. So I believe that almost everyone is in the right place according to their plans that they make over the week, so that it can last them through the weekend.
And there are some interesting people. There are people I've noticed that they will go to church first. Then in the evening where you find them, the two don't add up together.
I think that's what they call balancing the equation. Good morning, Mollen. How are you doing?
Well, good morning to you, Philomena. I'm doing all right. And I want to say good morning to our family out there. That is Good Morning Uganda family. Well, you guys talk about the weekend like, you know, we have it planned and we strategize about it. But I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed recently. If you're enjoying the weekend, with everyone going on about economy things, you now have to celebrate, but, you know, somehow in privacy. We no longer post those things on status because there is a feeling that someone might judge you. They will be like, why is she going places? Aren't we in the same Uganda? Guys, we're in the same Uganda, so we just don't want to rub it sometimes. But overall, I think you just have to find your niche and see whether it's okay for you to enjoy your weekend. And also, well, just because you're faithful doesn't mean that there are some activities you can't do. It doesn't mean that if you're going to church, then you won't go happening. I don't think there is a roadmap for how you're supposed to go about this. What I know is that for as long as whatever you're doing is the right thing and you're not in any wrong, you're not sinning,
yes,
you can still be a faithful person but get to, you know, enjoy life. And that's about it. But
Felix begs to differ.
And I have
there is no fellowship between the world of the light and darkness. That says the Spirit of the Lord. That's the Bible.
But you see, I didn't say activities mean you have to go to the bar, which I know that is where your minds are. That is where your minds are.
It could be adventurous.
For example, I like traveling across the country. I like being adventurous. It doesn't stop me from going somewhere to tour. You know, that is one of the activities. But why did Felix have to go and think about the worst?
Because Robert is asking, what's wrong with the bar?
But guess what? Guess
Is
what?
everything wrong with the bar, Robert?
I had Felix, you know, talking about chicken and all that. But I'll tell you one thing. The bad news for you is that is about to get expensive. Last evening, a group of farmers are also complaining, saying that the imported concentrates that they are getting are now very expensive, and this might be killing business or getting harder. So meaning that the prices on the markets are about to shoot high. But my question is, can't we do these concentrates at home? This is what President Museveni was saying.
Yes.
Some of these things we're actually able to make them here in Uganda. Why are we importing concentrates for chicken? Really? That is something that is, you know, locally mixed, and some of these mixes.
Importing chicken.
Exactly. So what is this? And then you hear researchers at Narrow, they're actually saying that, you know, they also need more funding. They should be given more money, like the professors at Makerere or universities. But can't they also look into some of this research? I believe that these are things that we can make at home and help with the tax burden. Because right now farmers are complaining about the taxes that are imposed on some of these things.
Yes.
And, you know, that means whenever the prices go up, they are also, you know, forced to go up themselves. But this is not good for the country, and I think we have to encourage innovation, especially when it comes to agriculture. And maybe, actually Narrow coming out right now to say they need more funding, they could be making a point, because I think we're losing it. We're supposed to do research on how we can better our agriculture back at home and have you know, a comprehensive issue where we can solve some of these things as a country. And I believe this is something that government should look into.
But Philo, if I may add something to what Mollen did say here. You see, way back, trust me, what kind of household would it be without some chicken running around?
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
I think everyone primarily
did we have concentrates
farming,
then?
even if it was not at a commercial level.
At any level.
Yes.
I never remember any household, for me, in Rubaga, where I grew, that didn't have at least 2 heads of chicken running around. And for our case, it was even worse. Like, there were turkeys. And the worst bit of the turkeys was to go and look for them in the evening. Like, and then once in that duty of looking for them is when you have one which is laying eggs.
Yes.
Muno nyama jikucha rogase koko, like you go to every bush, you know, you have to look for the eggs, and like that's the thing. So we never used to buy chicken.
I had an experience with chicken and
one of the things
Yes,
Mollen has
Robert.
talked about that I find very important is when our researchers, for me, one of the things that annoys me so much is Ugandan researchers at these institutions. Those guys have so much good research, groundbreaking
They
research,
sell it out. Those
but
guys
they
sell it
don't
out.
bring it to the farmers. One time, farmers were complaining when cassava had issues, but these guys are developed resistant cassava. It was in Tanzania,
Yes.
it was in Kenya. They do this research, they only go to international platforms, and you find a Ugandan scientist there with a very good research, very good discoveries, but the farmers, the local farmers, go to this Makerere University, Kabanyoro University farm, where they have their pigs, they have their chicken, they produce concentrates. So we must, how do we get this research to the farmers outside there? There is one of them who was giving us how to make, there's a way they rear these flies and they make concentrates, there's a way they rear these maggots, and he was doing very well. They have all this research, but to the poor farmer who is now suffering with importation, have substitutes here.
But I think the problem is also about commercialization of everything.
They're asking for
They
funding,
sell it
they're
out.
asking for salary increment,
Yes.
and they actually believe that if a university professor can get a certain amount of salary, they believe that they are also in a much better position to get the same salary increments.
But you know what causes that? Is the fact that government is absent in the processes of these people's achievements. And we have consistently said,
Yes.
because government still has no scholarships anymore. Now, when people struggle to study these things, there's no way you're going to determine how they price the aftermath of their sort of like professionalism. So if government has, and trust me, This is the argument we've been making time and again. Let government reinstall these schemes of bursaries at universities to promote. There are kids who can develop hilarious things here. But because they have no market, is very expensive. Look at the Mukonos, the Nkumbas, the university. So because government has also laid back in supporting innovation in terms of facilitating academics, this is the repercussion. That me, I'll go and invest heavily, and I'll definitely want to charge whoever wants my services heavily. And if Kenya or Tanzania is giving the money, I'll run to them.
Yeah, that's what I was about to also talk about when Robert mentioned, because you find that some of these international platforms actually give the money to support the research, and so you find that when they get out the products, it's only fair that they trade with these guys who are willing to pay a lot of money for it, because in turn also this kind of research actually needs money to develop. And that's why as government, if we are not providing a platform for enough funding for them to even have these products on ground to the farmers, someone else will. And we just had a story here of Kenya, you know, wanting to import Ugandan cassava. Yes. They are not going to get the Ugandan cassava that is up to a low standard. They are also going to approach some of these farms. You just wait and see. They're not going to be buying this cassava from each and every farmer, but they also want at least the best. And this has been developed with, you know, the hybrids that they have at these research centers. I think there needs to be much support to make sure that they benefit an everyday person, muntu wawansi here in Uganda, and we don't look at only the international part that comes in.
Well, at the end of the day, everybody has to play their part. But also yesterday, Sunday, was World Spine Day, and I happened to be talking to a number of medics, and they were telling me the numbers of Ugandans who are checking into hospitals complaining of backaches is actually really going higher. And World Health experts were coming in to ask, you know, Ugandans or anybody else to actually change their lifestyle. And it made a whole lot of sense, because if I was to be very honest with everyone here and myself, I don't know how many times I complain of backache. And I'm thinking about
people do exercise. The president did insist during lockdowns for you guys to do exercise. I believe this is one of the causes. People just gave up on me. They think it's a white person kind of thing, but it's a black person thing.
Yes.
Do exercise, make sure you're running, keep those gyms. I think it's good for your health. There's just so much that you can do for yourself.
Actually, I remember one time we were attending some sort of conference that one of these experts said that the new smoking syndrome is by corporate people who are liable to get very many sicknesses because they have a chair-to-chair life. They drive to office, they sit the whole day and drive back home and sleep. Drive, sit, sleep. Drive, sit, sleep. Drive, sit, sleep. Like that can't, if that's your lifestyle for a year, there's no way you're not going to get sick of the back, clearly. So I think what Mollen is saying and what Philo is saying in regards to a little bit of exercise is something we need to cut out time and do. Someone else was insinuating that there are some activities that are...
Well, there is just need to change lifestyle. There is need to change lifestyle. And lifestyle encompasses quite a whole lot. It could be, you know, the kind of diet you're feeding into your everyday life. If you're the office kind of person, you need to fix some time there to, you know, do some stretching and all that. At the end of the day, we need a healthy population, because without it, then Uganda is not, it won't be in existence. Well, a lot is to be talked about today amongst ourselves, but of course with you, our Good Morning Uganda family. But also we have to make sure that you get to know what's been happening around you. While you are going up and about your business, there is indeed that was happening behind your backs. And this morning, we want to take you through some of our local stories, and as we transcend into the international stories.
And we will begin with the people of Kasanda and Mubende, who are now testing a bit of lockdown due to Ebola. People of Kasanda and Mubende districts are now testing tough times of COVID-19 lockdown announced by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni as measures to curb the spread of the deadly Ebola virus disease. The Ebola virus disease was first declared in Mubende. The Ebola outbreak of Sudan strain was declared in Mubende on the 20th of September and has spread to other 4 districts of Chegegwa, Kasanda, Kagadi and Bunyangabu. Now, the 2 districts of Mubende and Kasanda, with many cases, are under lockdown for 21 days. The development was announced by the head of state in his last address to the nation. That was on Saturday. This lockdown brings back memories of several lockdown events that had times that the country experienced 2 years back during the peak of COVID-19. The purpose for the lockdown in the two districts of Mubende and Kasanda is to contain the spread of the deadly Ebola virus disease that has claimed a sizable number of lives, including health workers.
Now in other local stories, students ready for UNEB, where we see senior 4 students are ready to sit for their Uganda certificate education to end 2022 year calendar. Now many utilize Sunday morning to ask for God's mercy and grace ahead of tomorrow's paper. However, they have been advised to behave during the holidays. Senior 4 candidates are to sit their UNEB exams this Monday at the centers across the country. Many of these candidates Sunday morning did devote themselves to prayers and uplifting their souls for the exams.
And moving on, government has been called upon to boost national agricultural research organizations with research funding to enable more production and productivity of food security. NARO's Deputy Director General for Research Coordination, Yona Baguma, said 300 billion shillings is required for more agricultural research. This was during celebrations to mark the World Food Day at the National Crop Research Institute, Namuronge, at the event officiated by the Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja.
Now, East African Symposium, where we see stakeholders in environmental related fields have appeared for a government intervention in ensuring the climate change related aspects are respected. This was at a 3-day event aimed at managing climate change and food security, held at International University of East Africa, that attracted members of the academia and small-scale businesses, owners and environmental stakeholders.
Elsewhere, looking at the international stories, starting off with the United Nations Refugee Agency has said it is deeply distressed by the discovery of almost 100 naked men at the border between Greece and Turkey. The two countries have blamed each other for the plight of the 92 migrants. Greece laid the blame at Turkey's door, saying its behavior was a shame for civilization. Turkey branded its neighbors' claims as fake news and accused it of cruelty. As both sides blamed each other, the United Nations Refugee Agency called for an investigation and said it was deeply distressed by the shocking reports and images. Greek police say they rescued the 92 men who were discovered naked and some with injuries close to its northern border with Turkey on Friday. They said an investigation by them and officials from the EU border agency Frontex found evidence that the migrants crossed the Evros River into Greek territory in rubber dinghies from Turkey.
And in Nigeria, overwhelming disaster leaves more than 600 people dead. Now, recent flooding in Nigeria has become an overwhelming disaster, and many states were not properly prepared for them, despite warning, the Minister for Disaster Management has said. Now, more than 600 people have died in the worst flooding in West African nation that it has seen in a decade. Now, some 1.3 million people have been displaced and more than 20,000 homes have been destroyed. Flooding is expected to continue until the end of November, as Nigeria is used to seasonal flooding, but this year has been significantly worse than usual. The government has said usually heavy rains and climate change are to blame. Now, experts also say that poor planning and infrastructure has exacerbated the damage. Away from that, climate activists set off fire alarm to disrupt World Health Summit in Berlin. Protesters interrupted the World Health Summit in Berlin on Sunday by setting off a fire alarm, after which German Chancellor All Fire School took to the stage to blame the incident on climate activists. Now, so we are discussing pressing issues. Someone pressed the fire alarm and he's not really supporting our debate. The SPD Policia said, now over here they are doing some protest about climate and the thing like this, School said. The conference then continued and the fire alarm was turned off a short time later. The disruption that was latest in a string of high-profile protests in Europe against government policies on climate change in the recent days. While Van Gogh's sunflower planting was degaussed and was also with soup in London on Friday, an Aston Martin car showroom in London was targeted with orange paint on Sunday. Now in Berlin, climate activists have gathered to protest in front of Berlin Hotel, where the health conference is taking place. Some glued themselves to the ground in front of the hotel and to the front doors.
Well, much as we may talk about all these issues, we also have to talk about your health, my health, and everybody's health. And what can we do to make sure that we are in a much better position to be able to stay longer and in a healthy manner? Robert.
It is all about Hallelujah reflexology products. That is Hallelujah turmeric drink, Hallelujah ginger tea drink, and Hallelujah banana fruit juice. What these do is they boost your immune system. And I tell you, once you're healthy, you're more productive, but also you make a lot of savings, because we know health has become a very expensive thing. You go to any doctor, you know you're going to part with a lot of money, but you can save that money by simply constantly using these drinks at just 1,500 each. At any supermarket and retail shop, you can get these drinks. So try it out. I guarantee you, you will have a testimony.
Well, as you start off your cold Monday morning, I hope that you grab yourself that cup of coffee, but also a bottle of Hallelujah to make sure that while you are staying awake and alert, you're also staying healthy. We're going in for the inspirational song for this Monday morning because why not? We would really want you to start off on quite a positive note and be able to kick all these Monday blues. When we get back, we'll be having more discussions on Good Morning Uganda newsreel. We'll be also giving you some traffic updates much later on. Not forgetting more news coming in from weather and climate from Mollen. And of course, GNU agenda is also somewhere queued up for you. So I could say it's going to be a whole startup show for you this Monday morning. But for now, we go in for a break.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Ever-present help in
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. A new fresh week is upon us, today being Monday, the very first day of this very week. It is the 17th of October 2022. Welcome back from the weekend. My name is Philomena Mastiko. I must say that over the weekend there were very many things that were happening, but one of the things that really caught my attention, the number of success cards that were flying up and above. And truthfully speaking, I couldn't remember the last time I saw a success card. But knowing that UCE students right now are starting off with their final examinations to end their O-level, clearly it made a whole lot of sense. My question to you though this morning is, do you have any UCE candidate that you know? And did you send that success card? It could be in all ways, because these days I've probably heard that they no longer want the success cards, they want it on mobile money. They want the success card on mobile money. I don't know where we're going with this, but hey, I hope that all the schools are really ready, and we did see UNEB coming out to give very strict directives when it comes to cheating, what a school stands to lose if they're caught as culprits when it comes to cheating. Well, I do have a full house here every morning, obviously. I do have the man that is Uncle Bob or Robert Nyonyintono. I do have Mollen, Kenyena, and of course Felix Nkunda. Felix, good morning. I don't know if you share the same sentiments. Did you see success cards flying all over?
I've only gotten to remember that they're starting exams today.
Are you serious?
That's how bad it is. Probably in the house, do we have somebody going to see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely, I think, but I didn't send the success card. Even I should.
But Uncle Felix, and I'm sure that girl or that boy calls you an uncle.
But I'm going to work it out. I'm going to drive there. I'll pass by the school. But, you know, the weekend was lit.
Yes.
Quite a number of activities for some of the basketball lovers.
They're still recovering.
You'll be fine. And after that, there came the presidential speech.
Yes.
You know, we're back to 21.
Well, the people of Kasanda and the 21 so days, yes.
There's much we need to do, but also that, you know, the belief is that weekends are supposed to be like days to rest, to be. Initially, that was the thing. I remember
yes.
Way back, we used to, as long as it's weekend, Saturday, we used to do coaching up to around midday. You go home, wash your shoes, blah blah, clothes and all those things. Then Sunday, church, home. At least you're sure. One thing I'm sure of Sundays, chicken.
Oh yeah.
Chicken. So, and then out of the chicken, if you narrow down, what is obobumba?
I think steamed matoke. It could.
You know, I don't know which part you used to love most about chicken, or you love most, but for me, we used to be to know that when it comes to these internal organs of the chicken, they belong to someone. So we used to fight for the job of killing. I don't know, killing or close, slaughtering, or whatever. So we were excited about the heart and the
liver. Yes.
It's weird even that we're calling it liver. The thing is, the heart and the liver, you know, so I don't know how the weekend is nowadays. If these things still bring excitement.
Yes.
I mean, but
well, Felix, these days people go for KFC. Yeah, but also I'll tell you that I was never selective about any kind of part. Whatever you are given, whether that single, you eat.
Have you eaten this one? You know, this is called what? What's this one that does that?
The wing. Anyway, Felix, you'll take us through your chronicles because it seems like it's a whole book. But good morning, Robert. How are you doing this Monday morning?
I'm very fine. I thank the Lord for the gift of life and you people, and of course the entire team of Good Morning Uganda. And our viewers that have woken up with us. Thanks so much for waking up with us. Well, the weekend really had so much.
Yes.
Like the people of Mubende at Kasanda who are now testing the Ebola guidelines, which are not so much different from the COVID guidelines. Now that you can't go into or come out, if you're given authorization to go through Mubende, maybe you're heading to other districts, not dropping someone off within these districts or picking anybody. And of course, yesterday I was watching clips of curfew at 7,
yes,
where some had seemingly forgotten that by 7, if you're in Mubende or Kasanda, work is done up to 6 a.m. So we sympathize and we pray that we do not get Kampala to that.
Our communities. Today is the 17th of October 2022. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, and I am in the company of Robert and of course Felix. Well, today is such a special day when it comes to the world of academia here in Uganda. We do have our students sitting for UCE, and this is of the Uganda Certified Examinations organized by UNEB. Now, they did start on Friday when the briefing was expected to be, when it did did actually happen. Now, it's these are 2 years after, COVID-19, and we have been longing to see our candidates a seat for UNEB, and the day is finally here. Now, this morning we are joined by our special guest who will be with us virtually. That is the PRO of the Uganda National Examination Board, and her name is Jennifer Kalule Musamba. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hello and good morning, dear viewers. We bless the day, we bless the Lord for this day that He has made. We have long been waiting for it, and it is finally here by the grace of God. So we are grateful for His mercies.
Absolutely. Now, Jennifer, if you are to take us through what is happening right now, how are the preparations going so far? Because I know the excitement is a bit there. There is a bit of anxiety from schools, parents, students. But how is it going?
Well, thank you so much, UBC, and all our viewers out there. We want to say we are grateful. So far, so good. Things have gone on so well. Over the weekend, we had various activities going on. We had the dedication of the candidates from the various religious affiliations, and we thank them for joining us in prayer to dedicate the candidates and the entire processes. And indeed, because of their prayers, we are already winning the battle. We had some anxieties over the districts of Kasanda and Mubende when the president announced a lockdown. It was not clear if the candidates there were going to do their examinations. But through the various consultations yesterday, we were allowed to conduct examinations there in Mubende and Kasanda, and we did distribute all the examination papers to Kasanda and Mubende, and indeed to all the other districts. So as I speak right now, we are good to go. All the stations have received their papers. Usually we have our last station is in Yumbe, but we have also been able to deliver the papers there. So we bless the Lord, and we expect our the chief scouts to start issuing the papers, maybe depending on the distance, between 8:30, 8:15 and 8:30, so that they can be able to get to the sitting centers just in time for the candidates to sit. And in the case of the candidates, we do expect all the candidates to be at the premises of examination 30 minutes before the start of the examinations. That is by 8:30. They should be seated. They should be within the premises of the examination, the sitting hall, and maybe they are being checked. There's invigilation going on. So we urge them to be there in time so everything can be done in good time. And we are emphasizing the issue of following the SOPs which have been given to us by the Ministry of Health in order to avoid any health challenges. So we want to encourage the invigilators, the scouts, the teachers, and the parents to please let's work together and make sure that we follow the SOPs. We encourage the parents to make sure they deliver the candidates in good time. The parents who have to take their children to school for the examinations, the day scholars, please make sure you are there in good time. Well, the candidates are given up to 15 minutes after the start of the examinations, so you can only get there at the latest 15 minutes after the examinations have started. After that, you will be disqualified. So please make sure you are there in good time.
Well, Jennifer, maybe also to take us through the safety of these exams, because sometimes you have incidents of examination malpractices. What safeguards have you put in place this time around that maybe can make the situation better?
Of course, I am not at liberty to discuss the details of our security and safety measures, but our theme this year, and like it has been for the last 2 years or so, focuses on security. Our theme is integrity and security in the management of examinations. The health and safety of learners is a joint responsibility. So we have been emphasizing, we put in place a number of measures. We've tightened our nuts to make sure that no paper leaks first and foremost, because that is the worst form of malpractice. The leakage, like this morning there's mathematics, and by this time it's already there in circulation. That is the worst form of malpractice, and we've tightened our nuts to make sure that no leakage actually takes place. The other form of malpractice that may take place is now after is in between the station and to the schools, and we still tighten that. We are working with various security agencies to make sure we guard against that. We have various measures. However, we are also blessed by the fact that this is the first time we are conducting an examination under the new UNEP Act, that is the UNEP Act 2021. And this act has got very tight measures, and so we've been trying to sensitize our teams, those who are helping us to conduct the examinations, the scouts and the various teams. They all know the various implications. This time around, if you get involved in any form of malpractice, it's going to be really tight. We have, for instance, clause 25. Section 25, and talks about aiding possession, being in possession of unauthorized material that is regarded to be an examination, or be it right or not, be it correct or not, as long as you happen to be in possession of it, then you are committing an offense. And you can be, if convicted, you can be charged with 5 years imprisonment or a fine of 20 million shillings or both. However, the next subsection 2 talks about anyone who facilitates a candidate to possess and to unlawfully possess what is purported to be an examination paper or material. This is referring to people who are, for instance, going to pass it on in one way or another, whether physically or virtually, like the sharing on social media, for instance. If you're going to share on social media, then your charges are even worse. If in case you are convicted, the charge includes 10 years imprisonment or a fine of 40 million shillings or both. And I can tell you, we are working with various security agencies to make sure this doesn't happen. But in case it happens and we convict somebody, then they will definitely have to face the law. So we try to sensitize, of course, our teams to make sure that they are also very vigilant. And we believe that it's not going to happen this time around.
Now also, usually we have students who turn up and they have come for exams, but they are told they are not able to sit for these exams. Many of them are either tried late registration, schools confirm to them that shall be able, others schools don't have centers, now they went to other schools to sit their exams. So how are you handling this? Some, even maybe they were just fleeced by heads of institutions.
Well, under the new act, we are obliged to display the candidates' registers. And we did display the registers starting in, display the registers starting in July. And we informed everybody. We asked, and actually we did this deliberately when it was still holiday time. And we asked the parents, when you're taking back your children, please make sure you confirm if your child has been registered. We also had an SMS option whereby a parent or anyone interested would put in the full index number of the candidate. Then you send the SMS and then send the SMS to 6600, and you would confirm if your candidate has been registered. Many of them realized, first of all, there were so many anomalies. There were mistakes in the name, the way the names had been written, date of birth. And actually, some of them were actually missing. And the idea behind this, the spirit behind that, is to make sure we do not have people coming on the first day like this and crying and say, I was not registered, I'm not going to do examinations. And indeed, the act also goes ahead to put charges against any head teacher or anybody who has been charged with collecting fees for registration and they misappropriate it. So we do not expect really any such fees, because we really give them an opportunity and we expect everybody to have registration. What we've been receiving lately, like in the last week or so, was cases of parents who have not been able to finish paying up their school fees, yet the children are registered. And head teachers and directors who are saying, no, you're not going to sit examinations until you finish paying up the school fees. And we are saying, please, well, first and foremost, we encourage the parents to sort out these issues in good time before examinations begin. In case you're not able to finish up, go and talk to the school. Talk to the director or to the head teacher, explain to them, make an MOU on how you plan to pay the school fees. And do whatever you can, make some arrangement, but agree. And then we also ask the schools, please allow these candidates, for as long as anybody is registered, allow them to sit for their examinations. Then if somehow by the time results are released, the candidate or the parent has not been able to pay up, you simply ask your NEP to withhold those results, the results temporarily until they are able to pay. We believe it is better for the candidates to receive their results later other than missing out on an entire year. So our children have gone through a lot. We don't want them to receive unnecessary mishaps, something we can really avoid. So we are appealing to head teachers, we are appealing to directors, kindly, if a candidate is registered, let them do their examinations, and then we can see how best to sort this out. Later on, the Lord will bless them and they'll be able to clear the outstanding dues. So let's give them the opportunity, because once they miss out, it is an entire lifetime ahead of them. You are destroying a destiny of a child, and you don't want to be a destiny killer. You don't want to be in the way of somebody's child and of somebody's destiny. So let's do our best. Let's support them, facilitate the process, so they can be able to go through the examinations in a conducive environment.
Now, talking about destiny, what is the fate of pregnant girls this time around? Because 2 years since COVID-19, one would think those that conceived maybe gave birth, but what about those that now are conceived and they are candidates?
Well, UNEP is an agency under the Ministry of Education and Sports. And at the time of registration, the ministry allowed us to register candidates who are pregnant at that time. And for various reasons, really, that is not really obvious. So what happens is that because we were allowed to register the candidates, then we have that allowance. We have the option of allowing them to sit for examinations. So by this time, if maybe they've just delivered, or they are still pregnant, we categorize them under the special needs education learners. We have a category of the special education needs learners whom we give an extra 45 minutes for various reasons, because some of them are slow in interpretation, in reading, in understanding. And the candidates who are pregnant or who are breastfeeding have almost similar changes. A pregnant woman may go to the bathroom maybe like 5 or 6 times, or maybe they're not feeding well, or maybe, they have to go and breastfeed in case they are breastfeeding. They need some time to go and breastfeed. So we give them that benefit, and we are giving them that extra 45 minutes. And we ask the schools to arrange for this in good time, so that we do not have to have a hassle. And if a scout is going there, they are informed in time. We have these SNE categories of SNE candidates. The ones who are using Braille have seats separately, of course, and the ones who need support, USCs and all that. So we ask the schools to make arrangements for that. So we are categorizing them under the special needs education learners.
Well, of course, also to add, I don't know, has the examination setup this time around been changed, or we're still looking at the old way of setting exams, having put in place the new syllabus?
It is not, these candidates are not doing examinations under the new syllabus. However, they are doing under the abridged curriculum. Remember, at the beginning of I think when the lockdown was lifted, the National Council for Curriculum, National Council, the NCDC, National Curriculum Development Center, did develop an abridged curriculum, because the learners had lost some time. So they tried, it was a partnership, NCDC, UNEP, and the Ministry of Education officials, to establish what are the basic topics that the learners need to cover during this period, the number of contact hours between the learners and the teachers. So they came up with a format for an abridged curriculum, and the examinations have been set according to the abridged curriculum. The new lower secondary curriculum is currently being undertaken by the students who are currently in senior 2. So our first candidates under the new curriculum are going to be in 2024.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for those updates.
Can I just say one thing I needed to say?
Yes, please.
I wanted to ask the candidates out there. I know they may not be listening, but I want to ask the parents and the teachers and any of us. We have received many cases of indisciplined candidates, and it is not good at this point in time. We want to ask the candidates, having a NEP index number or being a UNEP candidate and sitting examinations doesn't put you above the school rules and regulations. So we kindly ask them to be disciplined, follow the school rules and regulations, because in case you are suspended, it is the worst thing. You will be required to come to school under police surveillance. It will traumatize you unnecessarily, and UNEP does not condone indiscipline. So UNEP is not going to stand in the gap for you. So kindly let's tell our children to be disciplined. They have just limited time to finish this. So let them be disciplined. And we also ask the teachers to also bear with them. Don't be overbearing. Don't be so harsh, because some of them are really tense for some reason or the other, which is understandable. So we ask for an amicable way of managing this period. We ask that we can support them in any way possible. Pray with them, pray for them, encourage them. Don't indulge in examination malpractice, but support them. Let them know we are standing in the gap for them. Let them know we are supporting them spiritually. They have to stand there for themselves, but let's do what we can do for them. And please, let's follow the SOPs given to us by the Ministry of Health. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and we are wishing the best of luck to all our Senior 4 candidates countrywide.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation.
All right. Well, you can also be part of our conversation. Get into our poll question and tell us, or share some of your advice, especially to our Senior 4 candidates who are starting their examinations. What advice do you give the candidates who are starting their UNEB examinations today? Hashtag UBCGMU 0709-602-592. You could use this number two-way. You could use it for WhatsApp to send us your thoughts, but you could also use it to send us your text message. But there is one thing that I really took keen interest in, Robert and Felix, because some districts have made examination malpractice quite habitual. I mean, there are certain districts that will just come off head right now if we're talking about UNEB, examination malpractice. And some of the reasons that UNEB gave, they did say that this starts at the district level because the people who are supposed to be making sure that they supervise the whole distribution network don't do their job when it comes to the examinations. Hence, we see examinations leaking. And then they also did say they're going to embark on naming and shaming some of the schools. And this is where I'd really want to hear from you. What do you think? Do we see any efficacy coming out of this? You've named the school, you've shamed it, but is it going to stop that habit? Maybe just to start off with you, Robert.
Very interesting. Examinations, first and foremost, we have to know why schools are cheating. That when education became over-commercialized, I don't even want to say commercialized, but over-commercialized, that now it is all about business. You see, the history of education in this country was not about business. We had the missionaries that came here, the Muslims also. We had church, religious education funded or started institutions. Their purpose was to have a learned group of people. Though one would say they wanted them, that's why our education creates job seekers and not job creators, that they wanted people who would help them administer their rule. Secretaries, they wanted clerks, they wanted administer their colonial rule, even when they go out. So they couldn't all come here. Then we went to communities where learned people in the community who had benefited either because they were close to the church and they had been educated, now discover the advantage of education and began schools. That is why there were schools, I don't know if that were called Katale Busaula Community School. Community School.
Yes.
In Lubaga, I think there was also community schools that people in these communities began. So to educate. Now we go to a time when everything was liberalized and people began schools. A fisherman went to a bank, got a loan, began a school.
Yes.
A businessman, not even so much into education, began a school. Now, these people notice that when you start a school, 2 brokes get a loan. By the end, you know how you don't bargain when it comes to fees. So you get money. Now what happens? The more students pass, that is why our education system is so much on cram work. Cram, this is what is coming. Cram, pass, pass. And you advertise. We have senior 4 candidates. We had 100 candidates. 90 passed in first grade. The rest in super second grade. So you're getting more. That is why today people are educated, but there is no education in them. There's no civilization because they just went, they have good marks, practically they can do nothing. So with extreme commercialization of education, that is what brings examination malpractices. That a person will tell you a child in a traditional school is well packaged, but there is this school where automatically they have good grades. So unless we tame that commercialization, unless we tame these issues of best performing, best ranking, exams are going to come back.
Yes.
These are the best in Impiji, best in Wachiso. Some journalists even mislead the public. You go to a school, even here they performed very well. The best candidate almost, but creating that impression. So to me, that is, we may not do away with examination malpractice. Even with this new act, even with all that, still unless, because some that do it poorly will be caught, you know. Some that are better organized may never be. And they will still excel and come out as champions in the education field. So that is the problem, that where we've reached, and day by day it's continuing. You have a person who is paying 2 million in senior 4. What do you expect the owner of that school to do? If they can't do it the right way, you know, you're not going to tell a parent who has paid 2 million that a child passed in 3rd grade.
Yes.
We saw a school in Kampala here. When they didn't perform as expected, they were all over. We have to be remarked. We couldn't get these few first grades. You have to be remarked. This school, I want
because they did have prior expectations.
Because, yes, it's one of the expensive schools. So for me, that's where I see the problem coming from and how it may be had.
Well, Felix, maybe to hear from you, do you think that this move is going to be able to restore the integrity of examinations, and also UNEB as a board that really is the gatekeeper to the examinations, national examinations?
No, I think for me, consistently, is the argument you have been making against our comrades in UNEB and probably entire ministry, that it's long overdue since we do make a choice to change the kind of study, the kind of education we give. And that's why I was very particular in the question that how are we going to examine these particular exams. We have consistently asked that we have result-oriented kind of education,
yes,
and so as exams. And this has been the biggest challenge. If you do reminisce the times any of us did our exams, that you see, when you teach a child, you examine them basing on the expectations of what you taught, like what you would expect them. They even things they call the marking guides and what, but what are exams aimed at? At the end of S4, this is what we are saying. At the end of S4, are the exams still aimed at someone like being very good at the rhetoric of European history, West African history? You understand? And this is our challenge for me up till today, that in as much as these kids are sitting the exams today, what are the exams aimed at? Do they have the value, or the only value attached to exams today is going to A level? That can't be the only value we attach to an exam, a national exam at that point. You understand that, and this is the dilemma, that in the event that probably Kirabo has failed, what you call UCE, is it?
Yes.
What are the alternatives? Okay, do we, and the grading, it's an wholesome grading.
Yeah, because it's not a given that everybody is going to come in first grade.
Absolutely, because of the difference in strength. Now, for the people who, let's say, who have failed the biologies and have passed CRE and whatever, I don't know if they do literature at that level, but
yes, they do.
That's the thing. What is the solution? For me, I want to hear you have this discussion, that away from dealing with a child or a student wholesomely, let us deal with a child particularly. That is it enough for us to say that a student has failed because they have not gotten a particular mark, but do we take time to look at the areas where they have strengths?
Yes.
Or at the end of the day, for us, we say one thing, bar good. You get the point? Yeah. As long as someone doesn't get a first grade, so for me, that's the biggest deal. So that's why, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone, I'm not excited by such exams, honestly and truly, because the end result in them is not seeking a particularity in how we help students. You see, every year they come out to say, girls probably were better than boys in English. Boys were better than this in math. So what?
You can always anticipate the
So what?
Yes.
The next question will be so. Okay, how do we turn those studies, statistics into meaningfulness? Secondly, when we give such statistics continuously, there have been boys are better than this, boys are. Do we use these statistics to inform how we teach these different personalities? You understand?
Yes.
Do we? Or it's just good purposes of statistics and the news? You understand? So for me, I think the exams still they no longer excite some of us who have a bigger or longer vision for the country. But as we talk about the national objectives today, we are talking about Vision 2040. How do we use S4 exams to entice what we are talking about the next 30 years? Or it is still just a process for us to go through? Maybe just on top of that, to crown that, the PRO did talk about an issue of indiscipline. I know this as a matter of fact, that lately there's been gross indiscipline in most of these teenagers. And this is something that is a reflection of how societies are today. So there's a big question. And this is some of the things we are saying, that are we having the right, instead of coming here to say, please, 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 I think we must be action-oriented to see how to avert some of these things. So as kids go to exams today, nevertheless, we are where we are. It is what it is. And we only can bless them and tell them that take strength, be confident. This is the time for you to reap what you saw, as Robert did say earlier. You can only write what you read. There's no magic. At least I know that as a matter of fact.
Definitely. Well, it is about the time to show us indeed if you are actually very busy sowing seeds, because at the end of the day, the results will be able to tell. Yeah, but our poll question is still running, and of course, in relation to the topic at hand, what advice do you give the candidates who are starting their UNEB exams today? Hashtag UBCGMU. Send us a WhatsApp message on 0709 602 592. Same number you could use to send us an SMS. We'll be reading your thoughts much later on as Good Morning Uganda goes on. For now, we're going in for a break. When we get back, we'll be going through the papers to see the big stories: Daily Monitor, Daily Nation, and the New Vision. Good morning.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions, plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Stay connected on the largest 4G network in Uganda using the Airtel 4G Pocket MiFi at only 75,000 Uganda shillings. It comes with 15 GBs free, valid for a month. You can connect up to 10 of your friends and family at a go. Visit the nearest Airtel shop to get one today or call 0800 333 330 for free delivery within Kampala. Dial *175 *9# to activate free 15 GBs. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
In the press review this morning, we are starting off with the Daily Monitor. Big story: tight Ebola rules as Senior 4 exams start. Now, a call of caution. Schools across the country have been put on high alert over the spread of the deadly Ebola virus, with more than 349,000 O-level candidates set to sit their first paper this morning. And looking at a motorcyclist riding past a closed Our Lady of Fatima Church in Mubende municipality yesterday, of course, after the directives that were passed on by His Excellency Kaguta Museveni during the national address over the weekend. Things have already started taking off in Mubende with all these instructions being put into action. Now, moving on to police jobs where over 2,800 are expected to be interviewed for these placements. And in other stories, farmers warn of pork chicken shortage in feeds row with the Uganda Revenue Authority, and tears as Ugandans narrate Dubai ordeal. And looking at the panorama, mudslides, floods, turn Bugisu economy upside down. And progressing onto the second page of the Daily Monitor, a more detailed story of how farmers warn of pork chicken shortage amid row with URA. And from the look of things, I think the biggest part of the Ugandan population, we may turn to be vegetarians in the near future. Now, looking at today in history, soldiers revolt over low salaries. Also in history, oil crisis sinks global economies. Well, get yourself the Daily Monitor to catch up on these and many more stories.
And crossing over into the New Vision, Ebola police enforce president's lockdown orders. That is on page 3 of the New Vision. Also, railway bosses must refund locomotives cash. According to Minister, that is a story on page 6. And of course, they give you a big headline right there. Another 3,400 SACCOs cleared for parish cash. A full list of the PDM beneficiary associations are on page 16, 18, 49 and 48 right there. You can find out whether you actually among those. Muhoozi joins Kagame in Kigali walk. Well, they give you a picture right there of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and of course with the Rwandan President Paul Kagame as they were during the walk. But that story is also in the New Vision. In education, donors give Uganda 800 billion shillings. A story is on page 5. And also more as Taiwan charges 10 for exploiting Uganda students. A story is on page 52. And of course, in crime, prostitutes raid police barracks. Well, that is also a full story on page 8.
Daily Monitor Sports, Hippos, Vipers, a serve-up historic weekend. And we're looking at the champions of 2022. And that is in the Nile Special Rugby Sevens, and also giving you some Premier League updates. Salah checks Man City game. Premier League leaders Arsenal pull clear after Mo Salah puts Man City to the sword. And looking at the CAF Champions League, Vipers and the TP Mazembe, the Venoms revel. Well, catch up on that story in the Daily Monitor Sports.
And in the New Vision Sports, still looking at sports to benefit from PDM. Well, how that is actually included, you have to get yourself a copy. Kaboyo leads Ndeje Drive, talking about the Ndeje University recently, where there has been an academic facility, and of course with State Minister for Rural Triangle visiting, and of course expected is how the proceedings will be for the Ndeje University games that are upcoming. Vipers to get shillings at 2.1 billion. Well, it seems like the Vipers have been guaranteed at least 550,000 US dollars, equivalent to 2.1 billion Uganda shillings cash prize after they went past the African giants, that is the TP Mazembe. A lot of more of those stories in the sports section.
Well, crossing over to the Daily Nation, still a lot is happening, and why I disbanded a crack police unit. A crack unit also said to have been involved in the arrest of politicians for ignoring summons, and an investigation report on the disappearance of 2 Indian nationals and their local taxi driver that was presented to President Ruto last week is precipitated the disbandment of the special service units and elite squad in the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, now accused of being behind the extrajudicial killings. Well, still in more national news on the Daily Nation, state can't account for 9 billion Kenyan shillings spent on fiber optic project. And coming in from William Ruto, he says, I am fixing Uhuru's mess. And in world news, it's Xi's party at China's historic 20th Congress. Well, the Daily Nation and the New Vision, of course, looking at the Daily Monitor as well to catch up on those stories and more. But also, just to remind you of our poll question, seeing as our senior 4 candidates are officially starting their examinations today, what advice do you give the candidates as they are starting their UNEB exams today? Well, coming in from Yusuf Ali here, you're saying that give yourself enough time to study, organize your study space, and use flow charts and diagrams and practice on old exams. God bless you. Well, you also need to keep them in your prayers this morning so that there are no hindrances, and especially for the candidates that are coming in from areas of Mubende and also areas of Kasanda. We hope that everything goes on smoothly right from the commencement to the end of this examination period. Well, looking at the traffic updates this morning and looking at some areas around Kabalagala, Chibuli, as you're headed towards a town this morning, it's quite a very busy morning, I must say, for all the residents in these areas, because the traffic is actually quite dominant on most of these roads. And maybe just to start off from around Chibuye Queensway as you're headed towards a town, well, it's a bit quite very heavy over there. We do have some spots as clearly shown over here on the map. We do have traffic also building up on several parts of these roads. And as you're headed towards Katwe, it's not any different this morning. I must say that the traffic in this very specific area is actually a bit chaotic. So you need to make an informed decision if this is your usual route, or you could use an alternative like I always advise. Looking at also this other side, Mengo Hill Road, you will be bumping into again some heavy traffic over here as you're headed towards this same direction. Looking at Nsambia Road, connecting over here, I could say that the traffic is a bit free over here, so maybe this could be a route, but you don't have to stay comfortable, because as you continue all the way to Mukwano Road, well, do expect the traffic to get heavier by the minute, looking across the Nachivubo channel all the way towards a town. Now, looking at Access Road, which again brings in very many motorists from different parts of this Makindye division, you'll be expecting traffic. We do have cars coming in from the industrial area, which is also not any different. The traffic is very dominant, and also cars connecting in from Mbogo Road, cars connecting in from Brace House Road, all trying to get to Access Road over here to get into the main road here, which is the Kampala-Jinja Highway. Now, Kampala-Jinja Highway, for the most part of it, well, it's also quite very heavy with the traffic. I could say people had quite early mornings because they did anticipate the traffic. Today being a Monday, and yes, seeing as that the weather did quite some chaos on our roads from yesterday's rains, I guess this is why we are seeing many people trying to get so much onto the roads at quite an early hour or hours. Well, looking at the upper part of town and coming in from Wampel Avenue, the road is a bit still free, but any minute now we would be having traffic building up because it's quite a busy road on usual working days. And looking at this part of the road, which is Yusuf Lule Road, bringing in cars from all over the place, from John Babiha Road, from Mulago Roundabout. Well, for now, it's a bit free, so I could say that it's a better option to use. But also, not forgetting that you can take a detour off, as we do have very many other roads. We do have Shimoni Road, we do have Katonga Road, we do have Kagera Road. We also do have Huntington Road, connecting you all the way to Nile Avenue, and of course, making your way to Speak Road as you're trying to join Kampala Road. Most of these roads for now, they're a bit free, so it could be easier for you to use them and quite more efficient. Looking at the other parts of town, looking at the square too over here, the traffic has already built up. We also do have cars that are coming in from Lumumba Avenue, which has already made the road a bit busy. We do have Chagwe Road. All these roads, of course, bringing you all the way from Wandegea. Buganda Road, which is a one-way from town towards Wandegea, though, is quite a free road cloud this morning, so you could use it just in case you are leaving town headed towards that direction. Well, also, what more important thing for you to know this morning? I don't know, Mollen, I don't know how excited you are when it comes to the World Cup. I really don't know, because Ugandans have already started getting hyped. Well, UBC is also joining this hype. Yeah, it's also joining the hype, and we would really want to know how excited you are, but also just to let you know where you can catch all these matches, because certainly not everyone is going to Qatar, but you can be.
Which is where we actually come in, and I think there is a twist in this, what we're bringing across, because there's a lot that you actually don't know that we will be unpacking, which is why it's not even detailed. It's not enough that you know that UBC always gives out World Cup, but there's a lot of tweets that we would want you to actually predict, and we see whether you've been really keeping up with your program. And of course, that is why we're putting up that campaign. Tell us your thoughts, go over there, and of course we'll be getting much more of that. And I mean, and you can count on us.
Yes, while you're getting at it, you can use the hashtag #WhatIsNext. And UBC, I mean, UBC has really done quite a wonderful job at giving you all these matches. So really, you don't have to go to Qatar. You could just sit in your compound, you could sit in your sitting room and catch up on all these and more. Well, our poll question is also still running, where we just want to hear from you. What word of advice would you be giving to our senior 4 candidates that are eventually starting their examinations today? What advice do you give the candidates who are starting their UNEB examinations today? Hashtag UBCGMU 0709602592. Let us know what you want them to take into those examination rooms. For now, I'm leaving you to Mollen to give you more climate and weather updates. I want to wish you a very fruitful Monday and a very productive week ahead. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. And of course, taking it from there, we're looking at more of what is happening in the climate arena. And of course, more that has been reported in terms of extreme weather events. We're looking at mostly flooding and drought events. Now, recently, we've also had a report about the Greater Horn of Africa being, in dire crisis when it comes to drought. And of course, this has been covering areas of Ethiopia that have continued with extended drought. You also look at the extreme side of coastal region. Somalia has also been dealing with most of those drought-related issues. And of course, this has created food insecurity across the region. Not to mention that even here in Uganda, we've had more of the food insecurity in the Kirabo region related to the fact that there has been a drought crisis over there. But the only thing we can hope for is right now, most of the works that are going within climate action should be geared towards adaptation. How do we cope with this changing environment? Because the weather is changing, the climate is changing, that is a given. But how we cope up with it, how do we live in such an environment? It has to do a lot with adaptation strategies, which is what governments have been asked to do, even as we head to Egypt for COP27 this November. Can there be more strategic plans when it comes to adaptation? How are vulnerable countries, we're talking about developing countries, you look at Uganda, you look at Ethiopia, you look at Somalia, that have had to deal with those drought crises, how do they now adapt and make sure that the climate change that is out there is not actually affecting everyone? But well, what is coming up more is that we also have another flooding event across Australia. And I think for the last 1 week, there has been a lot of alerts when it comes to a prediction of more heavy rains coming in Australia. And of course, this has triggered flash flooding, cutting of cities. And of course, Sydney also last week, which is a city in Australia, has had to deal with more of those flooding. Now, scientists are saying that this is predicted to take more and more days as earlier expected. And of course, that means that it will be creating more flooding across Australia. And obviously, this is one of those that they have also given out more alerts, especially when it comes to authorities that are on ground, also trying to ascertain what could be done in terms of making sure that this does not take in more people as they look at more of the flood damage. Now, this has caused drainage systems to also be blocked across Sydney, and of course thousands of Australians actually on Sunday were alerted on what they can do on Monday, looking at mainly
opening up businesses that are in the outskirts of most of these areas. You look at the southeastern part of Sydney, that is likely to continue with these rains, and of course that could create more flooding. And of course major flood warnings have also been placed across many regions in Australia, and obviously that will also be crossing over into the week. But authorities are on ground and so far analyzing the aftermath of these flooding events. Now, as if that's not enough, we've also seen more extreme weather events when it comes to flooding in Africa, and Nigeria recently is reporting much more of those. They're looking at more than 600 people affected by the floods, and we're talking about a death toll here. Just this year alone, they're looking at more than 600 people. And of course, you also look at the fact that most of the areas in Nigeria that have been cut off into the city centers, Lagos has had to deal with those. But also right now what is coming across is that usually this is their rainy season and they do expect these rains to come through. Now what is out of the ordinary is that this year they're seeing more flooding events than just the rainfall patterns that were seen across Nigeria for the last 10 years. And of course scientists are attributing this to climate change, looking at the pattern that has been there, the frequency, but also the intensity. You can imagine a rainy day amounting to rainfall amounts that would have been received in 1 year. Just that being received in 1 day, the amount of flooding that it causes, which is now putting on alerts of more and more scientists in Nigeria reporting that this could be a new normal for them, because they are looking at even an analysis of what has been happening in this decade or the last 10 years. Each year there's just more increase in intensity, so that goes to show that most likely they will be experiencing more of these flooding events if nothing is done to curb the climate change crisis across Nigeria. But also you look at the fact that across Africa we have been dealing with mostly struggles with climate action. Yes, we do get these events. Yes, they do come with destruction and death. But what are we doing in terms of strategizing, especially with early warning systems? Now, that is one thing that could help. Once we have the early warning, we can, minimize the damage. Because what we see in developed countries is that even as the flooding is expected, as the rains are expected, there is always, a prediction of that, and government acts there and then to make sure that they give the early warning, they give all those alerts, and people do listen actually, and they evacuate. Now versus what happens here in developing countries or Africa as a whole, I think we're reluctant in terms of getting away from harm's way, because we do give these predictions, we do expect these rains to come with flooding. But what do you do when you know that there has been a prediction of heavy rains in your area? That's when you should be taking into advice, and also government should be doing most of those strategic plans to make sure that people are not caught up, because we know most of these flooding hotspots. We know areas that are prone to flooding. And I'll give you an example of eastern Uganda. You look at areas like Bududa, you look at Kasese, where we've had most of those flooding events, even related to landslides. Those are the areas that if they give an alert that there is going to be heavy rains, there is going to be likelihood of flooding, government should be getting really on it, make sure that people are able to get off, out of harm's way should those rains come, should that flooding come, so that we minimize loss and damage. And that is the same message that actually COP27 for this year is carrying, minimizing loss and damage, especially across vulnerable communities and looking at developing countries, especially coming from Africa. Well, away from that, we also want to take a look at what is happening across the country. We'll be tapping in from our satellites across EUMETSAT and see the cloudy conditions across the country, and of course some of the rains that we do expect for this morning. We're looking at much more of still the southern sector of the country expected to have more rains, and you also look at least the Karamoja region has been continuing with those dry conditions, especially with mostly cloudy conditions also starting to build in. The good news is that this morning we are seeing more rains coming through towards Karamoja region, and of course that helps to bring temperatures down. For the last couple of days we have been having mostly dry conditions over there, so I said this is good news. We're looking at that rainy system coming through towards Karamoja, that is areas of Kotido, that will be bringing in a little bit of rains this morning. where we're seeing the orange to blue colors right there. That's the rainy system that I'm talking about. That is also headed towards the central parts of northern Uganda across Gulu. Most likely we're also going to be dealing with those rains as the morning progresses. We already have those rainy conditions there across most areas within the central part of northern Uganda. Now it looks like that system is headed towards the West Nile. We're looking at areas of Arua, Yumbe already having that cloudy system. Now this might continue into your morning, so you do expect those rains to also move through, but we could be having a clearing trend across central northern Uganda later as the morning progresses. We might be looking at that system actually clearing to more sun. Now some of that was also across the eastern part of the country earlier this morning, but looks like that system is also dissipating. Looks like it might clear for mostly in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions. We also have a little bit of clouds starting to develop across midwestern Uganda, Hoima, Fort Portal, Masindi right there. We're having mostly cloudy weather, but it looks like that is also moving away, paving way for sunny intervals over the area. That is likely to be going on for the rest of your morning. You also look at the central part of Lake Victoria Basin, Kampala here dealing with mostly cloudy weather, but it looks like we could be having a little bit of rainy conditions developing due to some of the systems that are starting to develop over the islands of Lake Victoria. That takes in also parts of western Lake Victoria Basin. You look at Masaka, Zimbabwe right there, most likely we'll be having a bit of rainy conditions headed your way for this morning. Otherwise, it's mostly cloudy as well for southwestern Uganda, Kabale Highlands, but looks like across Mbara we could also be having more of sunny weather coming through as those cloudy systems dissipate from the area. But you also look at the eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin. That takes in Mount Elgon Highlands as well, where you have Mbale, where you have areas of Bududa, Tororo. We did start off with a little bit of rains over a few places, but that system is likely to move away, although we could be having most of those redeveloping later in the afternoon, giving us more rains over the Mount Elgon Highlands and of course most areas within the southern part of the country where we could continue with most of those rains. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and also take a look at those numbers in terms of temperatures on what we're expecting for today. Also with the weather across several places. We will start off with the central part of northern Uganda, and we do expect to have mostly in terms of cloudy and sunny conditions for the rest of your morning, and temperatures will also be going up a little bit for a warm morning at 27 degrees centigrade. Now you look at the western part of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe and Rakai. We are forecasting isolated rains. Those will be across a few areas, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees. Southwestern Uganda, we are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and of course also with quite some pleasant day at 26 degrees centigrade. We do expect rains though later in the afternoon over several places. Now look at Mount Elgon Highlands. That is where we already have those cloudy conditions even as we speak. Now that is expected to bring in rains across several places, starting off with a chilly 25 degrees. Across the eastern part of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're forecasting rainy conditions for you. That will be also over a few places, and that system is likely to reappear in the afternoon, starting off with a chilly 25. Across eastern Uganda, we have Soroti, Katakuya, Muria and Kumi. We're forecasting isolated showers, starting off with a warm 27 degrees. Now the eastern parts of central, that is where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We're forecasting rains, also likely to start off with a chilly 25 degrees centigrade, and also that rainy system will continue into your afternoon for several places. The central part of Lake Victoria Basin, we're looking at Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso. You also have rains in the forecast, and that will be across a few areas, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade. We also do expect most of those systems to reappear later in the afternoon. Now, much more of the rain still expected across the Karamoja region and also parts of eastern Uganda for today. More of the pickup in wet weather activities also for West Nile. That will be across the northwestern part of the country. Arua, Yumbe, that area can expect to have more of those rainy conditions later as the day continues. Well, that is it in terms of weather updates. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be coming up. And of course, later than that, we'll also be diving into sports. Well, it was a very wonderful weekend for basketballers. If you love that and more, of course, Ruben will be here to take you through that. And of course, we do have Good Morning Uganda extra that will be coming in after that. My name is Mollen Kenyena, wishing you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Welcome to English in a Minute. I don't know about you, but I love looking through cookbooks and finding new recipes. Are Anna and Jonathan going to tell me about a great new cookbook?
What happened to Rita the accountant? Her desk is empty.
She was fired. Turns out she was reporting all kinds of false earnings for years.
Rita was cooking the books? Wow, that does not seem like her.
To cook the books means to be dishonest about a company's earnings. This is illegal. Books in this case refers to accounting books, where businesses record financial information. But cook? Word experts say this usage means to present something in an unnatural, changed form. And that's English in a Minute.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone, the most affordable smartphone in Uganda. You get to enjoy free 1 GB for 1 whole year. My Airtel 4G smartphone, your best value for money. Visit the nearest Airtel outlet today and get one at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's exactly a minute past the top of the hour, which is 8 a.m. Thank you for being with us here on UBC TV. It is Good Morning Uganda agenda. We have a guest and you're able to be part of the topic of discussion. Now, this Monday morning, we want to be discussing one of the topics that is really interesting because there is a saying that anybody at any particular time can be a member at this university. We are going to be discussing, depending on which part of the country the university is. Well, we're going to be looking at Uganda prisons, congestion, and the death sentence. Now, one wise man once said, everybody is a potential prisoner. Anybody can wake up, either it's a traffic offense or somehow, because not all that are there are actually guilty. Some are still going through the court process, or maybe someone wants their money and you end up failing to pay, and you're one of those where the person who takes you to prison has to facilitate, of course, something. But joining me on set to discuss this is the spokesperson of Uganda Prisons, Frank Baine. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
I must say you look smart.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, viewers, and good morning, Mr. Kirabo. I'm glad to be here this morning to talk about the matters that concern the University of Understanding, as you called it. And like the saying goes, it may be a question, it is a question of when, not if, since most of us or all of us are potential candidates of that area. By this morning, we have 72,000 inmates. We have, of course, they're distributed in 261 prison units and in 17 regions. The staff managing them are 12,713. And the situation is calm.
Now, with that figure...
On a record, we don't have a case of COVID, we don't have a case of Ebola.
Well, for now, that is a reason to smile about.
Yeah.
Now, Frank, rightly you talked about having 72,000 prisoners. But the question that comes to my mind, when I look at all the 2,000 200 prison units you've talked about, their capacity can only accommodate 20,000. Now, this is times 3 the number of what you can accommodate.
That's true.
This brings me to ask, how are you handling this? Because if you have a space of 20,000 people and now you have 72,000, that explains everything being a problem.
Yeah, we cannot deny that we are faced with congestion, but congestion in this country is in all sectors, because as the population is increasing very fast, the resources are remaining almost a constant. Like our case, our construction of physical infrastructure improvement is at 2% per annum, yet the growth of the numbers of prisoners per annum is 10%. So that means that no matter, because for us, our growth of infrastructure is determined by the budget lines or what we have. But the other side, again, is about the crime. That's why between me and you, we need to join hands and prevent crime than wait to punish those who have become criminals.
Let's look at the categories of prisoners you have. Maybe this will determine how we can reduce this congestion.
Well, of course, right now the convicted prisoners are 36,000 and the remand prisoners are 35, which looks okay. 35,000. It looks okay because now the convicts are high, but literally remands are not supposed to be in prison, because those are people who belong to court. They are not being rehabilitated. They are just there for custody purposes. So if we could reduce, for example, if we had only convicts, we would be having 35,000. That means our congestion level would be very down. And now we are having a bulk of people who are just waiting justice. You can't rehabilitate them because you have not convicted them. So that is where we need to put a lot of effort to do management and reduce the backlog of cases in what we are doing.
Now, also, when you talk about the convicts, those on remand, let's try to split this deeper into the specific categories that we have there.
According to the crimes, we find that the capital offenders are more. I think they are more than 19,000. They are the majority of the remands. Then the pet offenders, of course, the biggest crime we now have is murder, followed by robbery and defilement in the felony category. In the misdemeanor area, then we have theft and we have defilement. And of course, then it goes into those other small ones. The civil prisoners are very few. Those ones are 264. Those are the debtors. When they say somebody borrows money, doesn't pay back, then you take him to court as a judgment debtor. Then those ones are the numbers.
Those are the ones they must feed. Who has taken to court? 3,000 daily.
Because it's a civil matter being handled. So, but by and large, to me, I look at them as being all human beings and Ugandans. Or human beings, because some of these prisoners we have are non-Ugandans. But the most important thing is how do we reduce on the crime rate. If we can reduce the crime rate, then we could go to the comfort zone. But how we do it is still what is a puzzle. It's a puzzle for me and you.
Now, this brings me, just last week with civil society organizations under their coalition against the death penalty, and it was World Day against the death penalty. Now, Frank, we are told that we have about 227 inmates.
Actually, 127.
Okay, 127 there. Now, let's also, when we were listening to speeches given and all that, we are told that we've spent 20 years without anyone, because our law books...
Actually 22, because the last hanging was 1999.
1999. So people are wondering, why this period no one is hanged? Not that we want them, of course, the right to life, but of course our laws prescribe only death by hanging. Now, what is hindering the execution of this sentence as given by court? Our gallows not working? Do we have technical issues?
No, our machine is working. Actually, I want to clarify one thing. I had somebody on one of the media houses saying, why are they talking about death penalty, yet it was removed? And I want to remind Ugandans that if you check Article 22 of our Constitution, 1995 Constitution, clearly states, no person shall be deprived of life intentionally except in execution of a sentence passed in a fair trial by a court of competent jurisdiction in respect of a criminal offense under the laws of Uganda, and the conviction and the sentence have been confirmed by the highest appellate court. So we still have this on our law books. Therefore, death by hanging prescribed by court is still active. Our gallows are still active. The hangmen are still active. But we know the process that to hang somebody, this person must be tried by the High Court, first and foremost. Sentenced to death. After being sentenced to death, whether he wants or not, the matter will go to the Court of Appeal. Then after appealing, if the Court of Appeal agrees with the High Court, this matter must still go to the Supreme Court. Now, if the Supreme Court, which is the highest appellate court, agrees with the two subordinate courts, then there is only one chance remaining, what we call the prerogative of mercy. Now, it is at the prerogative of mercy where the President, on the advice of the Prerogative of Mercy Committee, will decide either to pardon completely, or to pardon partially, or to authorize hanging. And when the President authorizes hanging, it does not take more than 72 hours before the person is hanged.
Now let's understand. For anybody to be hanged, yes, the President of the Republic of Uganda
be a signature of
must
the President.
sign.
Yes. Nobody can sanction the hanging of a person except the President. So that's why if the President is not interested
or busy
or whatever, it's his discretion, then he doesn't append a signature. When he doesn't append a signature, then the status remains like that. And it was because of that that a group of prisoners led by Susan Chigula, they were 416, petitioned the court against the death penalty. They petitioned the court that being sentenced to death and the highest appellate court has decided and you are not hanged for a long time traumatizes. Because the moment the Court of Appeal says we agree with the subordinate courts, then you are 100% sure that you are going.
From that time, now this court decides.
Yeah. And that's when they put
when do you begin counting the 72 hours?
No, 72 hours after the president's signature.
Oh, after the president's signature.
After the appellate court, the Supreme Court decides, it is 3 years. When it is after 3 years, then the prisoner cannot be hanged. This person will have his sentence commuted and he will serve 20 years without remission. Now, what is interesting is that this case of Chigura, through all cases that were involving death, where the inmates were on a death row, all cases were thrown back to the court.
But the law doesn't work in that way.
Well, but the honorable roadships decided so. Now, it meant that by then I think the number was going to 600. So all of them had to go back to court. Did the mitigation, including actually Chigura herself. Then with her, she also benefited from the mitigation, and she's out. That's where even like the Katuram, who served his 20 years, the moment the 20 years reached, went out very many. And actually, from that, now the sentences took a different trend. Because one of the things that they had put in that became controversial was that this person, after, if the state delays, this person should serve a life sentence. And the life sentence, now when we were in when we went to the Prisons Act, I think they had not even cross-checked. It found that in the Prisons Act, for purposes of calculating remission of sentence of imprisonment for life, shall be deemed to be 20 years. Now it became a bit of a problem, but then eventually they came up with the sentencing guidelines, and now if they sentence you to life imprisonment, you remain there for life. If they sentence you to death, it becomes death. But the good thing is that now death is a discretion of the judge listening to the case, not mandatory. Say if you lost the case, a felony, then you should be sentenced to death. So, and because of that, right now as I'm talking, I think only 2 people qualify for hanging. The rest, the 125, are still in the appeal process. And that's why the hanging is not necessary. And remember, for us, we are reformists. There are many people who have been prisoners. From prison, they become ministers. You see, so there are people who have been in prison, they come out, they become pastors. They become very useful people. So that's why we think for us, killing does not solve a problem. But we do it as a duty because our law books still dictate.
And the machinery is there and active.
And the machinery is there, serviced all the time, ready.
Serviced all the time and ready.
Yes.
Now, this also brings me, because we know that for you, all you do is custody of these prisoners.
Yes.
But also we all know that the appeal process in Uganda takes a long time.
That's true.
I've had someone who came out and said they spent over 5-6 years for this process.
Yeah.
Now, this also adds to the congestion of the prisons we are
Definitely, our wheel of justice, our wheel of justice is slow, because we are saying averagely, now the time prisoners spend on remand is 15 months. Okay, it used to be much longer, like 20 months, but now it's at 15 months. The biggest challenge, especially with these remands, is actually in this constitution. According to the constitution, a case triable by the magistrates court and bureau, a person is not supposed to spend more than 60 days on remand. Or upon reaching 60 days of remand and the trial has not kicked off, this person should get mandatory bail and goes out. The one for the capital offenses, cases triable by High Court, that one goes up to 180 days, which are 6 months. Now, the only problem is that after that, the Constitution went silent. Now, and that's why the challenge is that you have spent, let's say, 6 months on remand. The prosecution comes and says, I am ready to proceed with the case. So they read for you the summary of the case, then they tell you, you will wait for the next convenient court session. Convenient to, I don't know. And you can spend up to 4 years waiting for the next convenient what? Session. So that's where now the process is. Of course, there are many things when you go. When you go to the judiciary, they tell you a judge is allocated like 360 cases. Surely 360 cases. If you have 1 year of 366 days or 65 days, does this mean you will not fall sick? There is no weekend. And remember, some cases, one case alone can take up to 8 months, can take up to 2 years. So you find that it's a bit unrealistic. Of course, there are a number of things being done, like plea bargaining. That one as expedited is actually, it is one of the projects that has made the number of convicts to go higher than their remands. But still, there is a challenge on it, because if you have been in prison and said, me, you are accusing me of murder, I didn't kill. Now me, I come. If I came to them and said they arrested me for robbery, then they say, who wants to accept so that we can work on his case? I say, me, I'm ready to.
Because you're even tired of being, yes.
He said, no, I'm ready to go there to tell you, I actually robbed. So can you give me the convenient sentence and I start serving? Now they will run to give me a sentence while you are waiting. But who needs justice? Except that the advantage is that you have reduced the backlog of cases by not going through that prolonged court processes. But in terms of real justice, who needs justice? The one who says I did it, or the one who says I'm innocent? That is some of the part. But we are improving, except that, like I told you, the rate of the increase of crime is a bit much faster and overwhelming compared to the rate of our preparedness as a justice system. The number of judges, the DPP officers, the police, all those.
Now, Frank, this takes me back to what you've just said. That is the rate of criminality, how we can reduce it. But help our viewer understand. We know that many people who go to these universities of understanding, if a person went as a chicken thief, he may return and is involved in aggravated robbery. If a person went, so the rate of people who have been in prisons and changing, some societies even fear. They will tell you, you're taking him as a petty offender, but he may just meet there and come back worse. We always hear police say, these guys, we arrested them. They were taken to court. They went in prisons. Now they have come back whenever I have this outbreak of some
and that's
crimes.
a very big misconception. Not everybody who goes to prison is going for rehabilitation. I told you right now, the 35,000 people who are in prison, and you can't touch them for rehabilitation. Because the laws say somebody must be proved guilty, sentenced, and then you start the rehabilitation. So, but a person who is on remand, you cannot rehabilitate him.
So they're just simply there.
And a number of them, they come, yes, they come, because of the time they spend, maybe even on remand. By the time they go to court, the evidence has disappeared, and by the end, they release them. Now, when they go and start from where they stopped, they say, you see, prison is actually grooming them. No, not everybody that has been. I remember that I had that case of Sobi, who was in court in prison 3 times, but he was never convicted. And therefore, you cannot say that prisons refused to rehabilitate this person. Yes, because of congestion, sometimes we have been forced to mix these people. But I want to tell you that the rate, we have the lowest rate of reoffending almost in the world, because our reoffending rate has dropped to 15%. That every 100 prisoners who go through our rehabilitation process, only 15 come back. If it was a test, I think we have done well. The only thing is that, of course, one bad person sounds higher than 100 good people, because of the commotion that is caused. I can assure you, our trend, even when we check, of course, the surveys are done, the research is done, we are doing a commendable job. But of course, you know, with humanities, you cannot say I will get 100%. We would love to have 100%, but it's not possible.
What is this rehabilitation we are talking about? When I go with some of my friends at church, those days I used to read very actively, and we would speak to prisoners, I found that many of them get born again. Many of them, if it was a Muslim,
actually, they are about
attached
yes,
to
we
the
have,
faith.
We have about
what
six,
is that
you
can say causes that?
Of course, among
Apart
the,
from religious...
among the prominent rehabilitation programs, one, we have that religious empowerment. Because, you know, when a person appreciates God, then he does not want to damage God's image by injuring, robbing from the other people. So enforcing religion is very good, and that's why all faith are accepted, except paganism. Paganism is not accepted. We are talking of the modern religious groups.
So these ones...
those ones are not accepted. That's one. Two, we enforce what we call rigorous discipline. To know at this time you must sleep, at this time you must eat, at this time you must do this work. To put that rhythm of response. Because most of these people who come to prison is because they have not responded to the core of the law. If they say, don't overspeed with him, that's when he accelerates. Please, don't pinch your neighbor's property, that's why he wants to do all that. So by putting this person in the rigorous discipline, you are trying to realign this person to understand that I have to be a law-abiding citizen. Then we have programs like functional adult literacy. We understand some, because the literacy rate in prison is very low, we discovered that about 80% could not read or write. So some of these crimes they committed is because they couldn't be able to read the signs and indicators of what was happening. So we have a program called Functional Adult Literacy to teach these people to read and write. Now, in addition to that, that one is targeting especially the youth, those who have started school and those who may be missed to go to school but got a chance. Then we have formal education. And actually that's where we have almost 99% results, that people who go to school, study, get qualifications in different areas.
So exams now, those are sit
even today, so when a person has studied, then he looks at life differently. And that is one of our most successful products. Then we have what we call vocational or skilling training of prisoners. The carpenters, the bricklayers, the metalworks, the crafts, the women, you find them doing the saloon business, that is fashion and design. So those are intended to help, and they actually help these people, because by the time they come out of the prison, the majority of them have nowhere to start. So, but when they have these basic skills, then they are able to fit in society and they live a changed life. Because basically, 90% of people who commit crime is because they want to benefit from where they have not sweated. That is for a fact. Of course, then the other ones you bring in the emotional challenges. But if you are looking at the real reason of our problem is people wanting to enjoy where they have not sweated. And like you'll find that in the urban areas, the crime rates are going high because very many young men are running away from the village, coming to the city. They think when you come to the city and look at the electricity, your stomach gets filled. When they reach here, they can't go back. They are here hungry. Then now they end up in the spiral of gangs for criminal tendencies. So that's one of the things we need to look at and handle.
Well, Frank, before I let you go in the interest of time, let's go a bit political. Uganda Prison Services, do you have prisoners that are termed as political prisoners and there are people looking for them and they can't find them?
Kirabo and dear viewers, every person that comes to prison comes through court. It is either the civil court, it is either the military court, it is either any every gazetted legal court is where we get our people. In court they are registered, we register them. We are able to account. Actually, if you go to any prison, any time of the day, and you are identified as a senior person, the person at the gate will start by telling you how many prisoners are in that prison. And we count, because we count them many times, but there are 4 significant times we count. What we call unlock, the one I was telling you in the morning. By the time I came, I already had the numbers of all those people who slept in the prison. So I can't have the numbers, and I fail to locate Baine, who is with me. And this is what I keep explaining, that not everybody that has just been arrested is in prison. There is a process of interrogation, then from interrogation forwarding the form to the warrant, to the DPP, then DPP peruses and sanctions. Then the prisoner is taken to court. Prisons, we never pick prisoners on the street. We go to court. They are handed over to us. Their records are clear. Their relatives are in court. If you want anybody in prison, or if you are looking for anybody, except there are those who deliberately change their names and location. Because some prisoners want to go to prison. When they come out, they say, I have just been in Sudan. They store all my things, I have just come. Kumbe, the man has been next door in the what? In the prison. So those conceal their what? Their identity. But those are very few. Now, the names are clear, because every prisoner is recorded. If you come looking for the prisoner, they have been coming. We list and say, okay, this one is here, this one is here, this one is here. If he's not there, then we say, we don't have them. Try to look for wherever they are. But all we need to know that it is a process from arrest to prison. They don't arrest and rush to prison. No, there must be a process, and court is always in the middle. We get our people in court. If you got court and court tells you that we sent your man to Chitaria, and then you come and then we cannot account for that person, then that is wrong. So, but to the best of my knowledge, for us, we don't have political prisoners, because the ones who we have are accused of, I would call them normal crimes. Either it's murder, it is terrorism, it is treason. Those are not political prisoners. Those are according to the penal, according to our penal code. Those are part of the laws of Uganda where people are charged. Maybe now I'm waiting for those who are abusing computer.
You're eager, waiting for those that are coming under the new law.
Well, sometimes they are also a nuisance, but we are waiting for them.
Well, let me have your final word.
Well, my final word actually goes to the youth. Like now, we have the parish development model. I think it should be in the interest of all of the youth to benefit from this program. And that's what will help us to avoid crossing the line. Because I always tell people, for us we are congested, but there is always room for the wrongdoers. And we don't appeal for people to come, but we will come whoever is brought. So please, keep in your lane, do what you are supposed to do. Let's develop our country. Let's have a mindset change of loving our country, loving ourselves, and working for what we feed on. The Bible is clear. From our sweat, we shall survive. If you think you're going to depend on the other people's sweat, yeah, we are also there.
The university is ready.
When you come the other side, then we shall also show you that you can always sweat for those ones who you thought they were sweating for you.
Very interesting. Thank you. That is the prison spokesperson, Frank Baine. Well, my one remark is let's all make prisons a better place for everyone. One time there's a person who was told that prisoners don't have blankets, and he said, do you call prison a hotel? Only to end up, and times had changed, and he visited Baine's institute. And he asked, but people don't have blankets, there's no sugar. He was reminded that Paul Mwanga, this is a prison and not a hotel. So let's ensure we make lives of prisoners and we make prisons a better place for everybody. It's a potential person to visit there. And remember, the computer misuse, like he said, fellow Ugandans, be very careful with what you share, what you post. Emotionless may land you into 5 years of imprisonment. Have a lovely day. Ruben is here to take you through sports updates. Good morning.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone, the most affordable smartphone in Uganda. You get to enjoy free 1 GB for 1 whole year. My Airtel 4G smartphone, your best value for money. Visit the nearest Airtel outlet today and get one at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. Airtel, the smartphone network.